The morning sun was soft, spilling gold light across the neatly trimmed lawns of Willow Creek, a quiet, American suburb where the only real drama usually came from the homeowners association, handing out warning letters about trash bins or unapproved paint colors. For 23 years, Eliza Matthews had lived in her home at the corner of Maple Drive. The house was nothing extraordinary at first glance, a two-story colonial with fading blue shutters and a white porch, but to her, it was the entire tapestry of her life. Her late husband, Thomas, had chosen it with her when they were young, promising it would be the place they'd grow old together. Their children, now scattered across the country, once rode their bikes down its driveway, carved pumpkins in its kitchen, and turned its backyard into their kingdom of imagination. To Eliza, the house wasn't property, it was memory. That's why the knock on her door that Tuesday morning felt like the end of the world. When she opened it, she was met not with a friendly neighbor, but with two police officers in crisp navy uniforms and a man in a gray suit who introduced himself as a city development officer. The officers were respectful, but their presence made the air heavy, their hands resting on their belts, their radios hissing quietly. Eliza Matthews, the man in the suit asked. Yes, she said cautiously. I'm afraid I need to inform you, he began, glancing down at a thick folder of papers, that this property has been officially reclassified under state development claims. Effective immediately, it is recognized as government-owned land. The words struck like lightning. Eliza blinked at him, confused. I'm sorry. This is my home. I have the deed. I pay the taxes. What are you talking about? The man in the suit spoke as though reading from a script. An old zoning ordinance was recently enforced in this area. Records indicate this lot falls under government reclamation. You are required to vacate within 30 days. Her voice sharpened. This is absurd. I've lived here for decades. You can't just take it away. Behind her, framed photos of her children smiled from the walls, reminders of a lifetime built in this space. She gripped the doorframe as if the house itself were about to collapse. The officers shifted uncomfortably, as if they didn't want to be there. One of them cleared his throat. Ma'am, we're just here to deliver notice and ensure everything remains civil. But Aliza was already shaking her head. No, absolutely not. This is my property. She left them standing on the porch and returned moments later with a faded leather folder. From it, she pulled out her deed, yellowed but still official. She held it up to the man in the suit like a weapon. This is proof. I own this home. The man glanced at the paper but didn't flinch. I understand, ma'am, but these development claims override private ownership. It's all legal. Her hands trembled. Her heart raced. The words override private ownership burned in her ears. By now, neighbors had begun to notice the police cars outside. Curtains twitched, garage doors cracked open. Soon, a small cluster of residents gathered on the sidewalk, whispering and speculating. What's going on? A woman in yoga pants muttered. Why are the police at Eliza's house? HOA trouble again, someone else guessed. But the HOA president himself, a tall man in khakis named Mr. Whitman, strode over with his clipboard in hand. What seems to be the issue here? When he heard the claim, Whitman frowned deeply. This doesn't make sense. That house is fully compliant. We've never received a notice like this before. The man in the suit repeated his line about zoning and reclamation, but to Eliza, all of it sounded like bureaucratic nonsense. She clutched her deed tighter, standing taller now, despite the tears welling in her eyes. You'll have to drag me out before I leave, she declared. The standoff had begun. Word spread quickly through Willow Creek. Some neighbors supported Eliza fiercely, seeing the situation as a violation of everything they believed America stood for. Property rights, fairness, the dream of working hard for your own home. Others, however, muttered that maybe the government was right, that development might bring in a new park, or new shops, or boost property values. The HOA held an emergency meeting in the community center, packed with angry voices. Papers flew. Arguments broke out. Some shouted at the city representative who attended. Others questioned whether Eliza had really kept her paperwork up to date. Eliza herself sat in the front row, silent but resolute, clutching her folder of documents. She looked tired but unyielding, her eyes scanning the crowd as if daring anyone to challenge her. Outside, the police returned periodically, not to remove her yet, but to check in. Their presence kept the neighborhood tense. Every patrol car reminding residents that something bigger than their cul-de-sac disputes was at stake. At night, Eliza sat in her living room, staring at the photographs on the walls. She thought of her husband, of how proud he was to pay off their mortgage, how he called the house their castle. She whispered to the empty room, I won't let them take you. 2 weeks in, the tension peaked. The city posted a large red notice on her door, stamped with bold letters, government property, unauthorized occupancy. Neighbors gasped when they saw it. Eliza tore it down and ripped it into shreds in front of the officers watching. This is my home, she shouted, her voice echoing down Maple Drive. Not yours, not the government's, mine. The crowd that gathered erupted, some cheering her defiance, others shaking their heads, worried she was only making things worse. One officer, younger than the rest, looked at her with something like pity. He said softly, Ma'am, I believe you. but the paperwork says otherwise. That night, news cameras appeared. A local TV station ran the headline, "Widow resists government land claim." Suddenly, Eliza wasn't just a woman on Maple Drive, she was a symbol. Calls poured in. Lawyers offered free consultations. Activists came to march. Her quiet neighborhood became a battleground of principle. On the 30th day, the city arrived in force. More officers, moving trucks, legal staff. The HOA stood on the sidewalk, torn between their rules and their loyalty. Neighbors held handmade signs, "Save Eliza's home," and "Hands off our property." Eliza stood in her doorway, the deed pressed against her chest, her body trembling but her gaze unbroken. "You will not take me out of my home," she said, her voice shaking but fierce. "Not while I am alive." Silence hung in the air. Even the officers hesitated. The development officer stepped forward, raising his papers again. "Ma'am, by law," but before he could finish, a man from the crowd shouted, "Enough. We stand with Eliza." Others joined in, voices rising, a swell of defiance from ordinary people who believed her fight was theirs too. The officers looked at one another. No one wanted to be the one to drag a grieving widow from her home under the glare of cameras. And so, for that day at least, Eliza remained. The battle wasn't over. Courts would decide the legal technicalities in the months to come. But Eliza had already won something more powerful. She made her voice heard. She made her stand. She forced everyone, her neighbors, her city, even her government, to see her not as a name on a file, but as a human being defending her life's work. And as the sun set behind the maple trees of Willow Creek, her house stood tall, a stubborn symbol of memory, love, and the unyielding belief that home is more than land, it is identity.